From Abuja to Lagos, Sokoto to Port Harcourt, Enugu to Ilorin, all across Nigeria, we bring you news and information that will make your day. We are news. We are 24 News Radio TV. From Abuja to Lagos, Sokoto to Port Harcourt, Enugu to Ilorin, all across Nigeria, we bring you news and information that will make your day. We are news. We are 24 News Radio TV.
A lovely evening to you. Many thanks for joining us on the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. My name is Grace Mwafo. The federal government has reaffirmed its resolve to sustain policies and incentives that will keep Nigeria attractive to global energy investors, saying new measures will target idle oil assets and drive sustainable production growth. The assurance was given by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Senator Heineken Lukmobiri, during an inspection of the NNPC Chevron Nigeria Limited joint venture EGTL facility in Escravos, Delta State. The minister stressed that the government objective remains to increase production and ensure Nigeria remains attractive to capital expenditure distribution in the global oil and gas market. The minister commended the NNPC CNL JV for its operational excellence and urged other operators to consider farming out idle assets to investors with access to capital, noting that the government is reviewing the activation of the drill or drop provision in the Petroleum Industry Act. The National Pension Commission has advocated that the federal government increase its pension contribution for police officers from 10% to 20%. The Director General, Ms. Omolola, made the call during her visit to the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Betoku, at Force Headquarters, Abuja. This visit followed protests by retired police officers who decried poor welfare and demanded exit from the contributory pension scheme. Among the reforms, PENCOM is proposing a health insurance scheme for retirees, raising monthly pensions to 75% of a police officer's final salary before retirement, expanding the retirement resettlement fund, and overhauling the police pension structure. On calls for the police to exit the CPS, the DG said such a move is unnecessary and counterproductive, emphasizing that the issues can be resolved within the scheme. She urged patience and continued dialogue as PENCOM and the NPF implement these reforms. Speaking during the visit, IGA Betokun commended PENCOM's effort and reaffirmed the police force readiness to work with PENCOM to resolve police pension concerns. And from Adamawa State, the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of election monitoring, AIG Taiwo Adeleke, has arrived in Yola ahead of Saturday's by-election in the Ganye State constituency of Adamawa State. Adeleke warned officers and men of the police against engaging in brutality during and after the election, directing them to be professional in the discharge of their duties. In a statement, the spokesman of the Adamawa Police Command, SP Suleiman Guroji, said the directive was in line with the order of the Inspector General of Police to ensure a peaceful and credible poll. Adeleke urged all personnel to remain professional, impartial, and civil when dealing with members of the public, stressing that the police constitutional responsibility is to provide security before, during, and after the election. The Adamawa State Police Command assured residents of its unwavering commitment to safeguarding lives and property and called on the public to remain law-abiding, cooperate with security personnel, and promptly report any suspicious activity. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has unveiled a $50 million global fund to empower women entrepreneurs in digital trade, warning that global commerce is facing extremely challenging times marked by rising unilateralism and protectionism. The initiative, known as the Women Exporters in the Digital Economy Fund, is a joint effort of the WTO and the International Trade Center aimed at equipping women-owned businesses in developing countries with the skills, resources, and networks to participate competitively in global value chains. Speaking in her address, Okonjo-Iweala warned that Nigeria's low internet penetration, with more than half of the population still offline, could limit the country's ability to tap into the fast-growing global digital trade market. She said only 45% of Nigerians are connected to the internet, far below the global average of 67%. The former Nigerian finance minister said the launch comes at a time when total global trade stands at $30.4 trillion, with a digital trade representing the fastest growing segment, yet Africa's share remains under 1%. While lauding the government's $2 billion fiber optic project to connect rural and secondary cities, the WTO chief stressed that digital trade cannot thrive without reliable electricity. She therefore called on interministerial collaboration between the Ministries of Power, Communications, and Women Affairs and Trade to sustain and scale the initiative. This is still the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. Still to come are news from the foreign scene and the world of sports. Stay with us. Glad to know that you are still there. If you're just joining us, this is the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. Over now to the foreign scene. Russia has announced curbs on calls on the WhatsApp and Telegram messenger apps, saying that it was necessary to fight criminality. Communications watchdog said the messenger apps have become the main voice services used for fraud and extortion and for involving Russian citizens in subversive and terrorist activities. Russian security services have frequently claimed that Ukraine was using Telegram to recruit people or commit acts of sabotage in Russia. Moscow wants the messenger to provide access to data upon request from law enforcement, not only for fraud probes, but also for investigating activities that Russia describes as terrorist ones. In a statement made available to newsmen, Telegram said it actively combats misuse of its platform, including calls for sabotage or violence, as well as fraud, and removes millions of pieces of harmful content every day. Since launching its offensive in Ukraine, Russia has drastically restricted press freedom and freedom of speech online. Russia has praised the Trump administration's energetic effort to stop the war in Ukraine and hinted that Moscow and Washington could strike a deal on nuclear arms control during their summit on Friday in Alaska. In his first public comment since U.S. President Donald Trump announced the Alaska summit, Putin chaired a meeting of senior Russian officials at the Kremlin to brief them on the state of play in negotiation with the U.S. on Ukraine. In a brief remark, Putin said the summit with the U.S. aims to create long-term conditions for peace between their countries, as well as in Europe and in the world as a whole. He suggested this broader peace can be achieved if the next stages of discussion with the U.S. will reach agreement in the area of control over strategic offensive weapons. Although it was not clear what kind of deal Putin referred to, most strategic weapons treaties between the U.S. and Russia have covered nuclear weapons or nuclear-capable missile systems. And heading over to the world of sport. Nigeria opened their Davis Cup Africa Group 3 qualifying campaign in Harare, Zimbabwe on a winning note, rallying from behind to edge Algeria 2-1 in their first match of the tournament. The Nigerian side did not begin well as Michael Emmanuel lost the first singles rubber 6-1
From Abuja to Lagos,
against
Sokoto.
Algeria's Tufik Satali as the North Africans led 1-0. US-based Nigerian tennis star Christopher Bulus began the comeback when he took on Samuel Hamza in the second singles rubber between the countries. Bulus edged the first set 7-6 through a tiebreaker before going on to lose the second set 4-6 to his opponent, having managed to come from 4-1 down. However, in the deciding set, he cruised to a 6-4 triumph to level the scores at 1-1. In the doubles rubber, the duo of Daniel Adeleye and Bulus began the tie by racing into a commanding 3-1 lead on their way to clinching the 6-4. The Algerians, led by Satali and Hamza, recovered in the second set and put on a dogged display as they won 7-6 on a tiebreaker. The final set saw the West Africans break the Algerians to take a comfortable 4-2 lead, and they held their next serve to extend the lead to 5-2. Satali and Hamza soon made it 5-3 points before the Nigerian duo sealed the set and the contest with 6-3 points. Day 2 actions will continue today at the Davis Cup Africa Group 3 qualifying tournament as Nigeria resumes the chase to secure promotion to the World Cup 2 playoffs. And still from the world of sport, Liverpool manager Arne Slot has confirmed that a deal to sign 18-year-old centre-back Giovanni Leone from Parma has been agreed between the clubs. Report says the Premier League champions will pay €26 million for the highly rated prospect, who has played just 17 Serie A games for Parma. Liverpool have already splashed out €260 million on the signings of Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Jeremy Frimpong and Milos Kerkez to build from a position of strength after romping to a record-equaling 20th English top-flight title last season. However, the departure of Jarrell to Bayer Leverkusen has left Slot with just 3 centre-backs to choose from. One of those, Joe Gomez, has missed most of pre-season due to injury, while doubts remain over the future of Ibrahima Konate, who has just 1 year left on his contract at Anfield. And that is a wrap on the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. Do stay tuned for more programs to be coming your way. My name is Grace Mwafo. Have a lovely evening.
From Abuja to Lagos, Sokoto to Port Harcourt, Enugu to Ilorin. All across Nigeria, we bring you news and hey, we are news. We are 24 News Radio TV.